So last week, I hosted an open pop-up group coaching call for anyone who needed support processing big feelings around the recent results of the 2024 U.S. presidential election, or really anything else that's happening in society. And I'm happy to say that we did have a wonderful time. We had a small, intimate group that showed up, and it wasn't a lot of us, but we had some really good conversation, and it was juicy. And so I wanted to use today's episode to share with you the biggest takeaway from that conversation and from the coaching that happened on that call. So let's dive in, y'all. Ready? Let's go. Okay, before I tell you the juicy top takeaway from that coaching call, let me just say, if you did not know about this open coaching call that I was having last week, my bad. That's on me. You might be a loyal listener to the podcast and you're like, Coach Elizabeth, I did not hear anything about an open coaching call. And you're right. I never actually made that announcement on the podcast. And the reason is because I published last week's episode, and sometime after that, I decided to hold an open coaching call I think it was on Friday. And so I just didn't have time to announce it on the podcast. I'm not going to do that again, though. I will make sure that y'all get updates from me on anything that I have to offer and anything that's important. But that is a great time for me to remind you that if you're only listening to me here on the podcast, get your entire life and follow me on whatever social media platform you use. I spend lots of time. I'm hanging out on Instagram, Threads. I've been hanging out a lot on Threads lately. And you can also follow me on Facebook. And my handle is @LifeEditProject in all those places. So get your life and connect with me in all those places, and you will not miss the updates for those coming up. I did have a few people say they wanted to join the call, but it just didn't work for their schedule. And so I did get some requests to do an open coaching call again. I do not know when I'm going to do that. I'm going to look at the calendar, see what I can figure out. But I would like to try to make that work if I can. So stay tuned. Follow me here. Follow me on social. And I will make sure that you hear about that before that happens. Okay. So here is the lesson from last week's pop-up open coaching call. And the lesson is this. Processing feelings is going to be an essential skill right now and moving forward. It's not maybe if you get around to learning how to process feelings, you should. No. Processing feelings is an essential skill. You need to know how to do it. And the reason is because if you had real big, intense, and negative feelings around the election cycle, around any of the current events that are happening worldwide, if anything that's been happening in society has been giving you big feelings and you have not figured out how to process them, get ready for more. More is coming. Okay? And because I talk a lot about perfectionism here on the podcast, I'm going to do that today. Learning how to process skills is going to be essential for people who are perfectionists or recovering perfectionists or people who just have perfectionist tendencies, because your go-to method of coping with whatever is happening around you is to try to control it. And guess what? If you haven't learned how to process your feelings, you feel like you cannot control your feelings. And so your strategy is to try to control your environment and the things that create feelings for you instead. But guess what? You are not going to be able to avoid all of the things that trigger big, intense, and negative feelings for you going forward. If you've been triggered by people who have different opinions or belief systems, you're going to be triggered going forward. You can expect to be triggered by changes to laws and policies coming up. If the news cycle has been a trigger for you in the past, it's going to be a trigger for you again a lot going forward. There are going to be events happening in the local community, around the world. Heck, you might be triggered by the price of gas or the price of eggs the next time you go to the supermarket. You know what I mean? So you will not be able to control your environment so meticulously that you avoid everything that could possibly trigger big, intense, and negative feelings. And for a lot of perfectionists, that desire to control is because they're afraid of losing control. And if you don't know how to process feelings, being confronted with big, intense, and negative feelings triggers your fear of losing control. And so I want to offer you more tools and a different way of showing up and relating to life in whatever the next year or 4 has in store for us. And also because you need to be able to process your feelings, because avoiding your feelings only gives you the illusion of control. It does not actually give you control over your feelings. And the reason for that is because ignoring your feelings or resisting them or pretending like they don't exist does not make them go away. Resisting your feelings only intensifies them. And so the more you try to resist your feelings, the less in control you actually are of yourself and of the world around you. So again, learning how to process your feelings is going to be an essential skill for you going forward. And I would love to help you do that. So now is the time to give yourself the support that you need to be okay, to be able to survive and recover, but also to be able to renew and focus and grow as we move ahead, right? Because time marches on and so should you. And that, my friends, is one of the ways that I can help you as a life coach. So my call to action for you today is the same as it always is. Use the link that is in the show notes to book a call with me to learn more about my one-on-one coaching program. And let's talk about how I can help you process big feelings now and in the future, and help you to be able to process big feelings on your own, no matter what the feeling is that shows up. All right? So that's all I have for you for today's episode. I will be back in your ears next week with another probably quick and dirty episode. All right? Until then, process your feelings. Peace.